Hey guys, Christy Shelton from foreverandafter.com. Thank you for joining me for this next installment in our Healing After Heartache mini-series focusing on miscarriage and pregnancy loss. Today I want to talk to you guys about the different types of miscarriages and how to decide what the best course of action is for you if you are experiencing a miscarriage. So, the first type is probably the most common. It's a traditional miscarriage, and that's the one that we all think about. It's spontaneous loss of pregnancy. It's where you start bleeding or cramping, and you just start the process of kind of losing the pregnancy or losing the baby before you even know what's going on. There's usually little intervention that can be done. Pretty much nothing can be done if you're already experiencing a miscarriage, especially really early on in the pregnancy. And you pretty much, your body knows what to do, so it kind of takes over. The second type of miscarriage, which is what I experienced myself, is a missed miscarriage, sometimes called a silent miscarriage. Basically, in this case, my baby had stopped growing pretty early on in the pregnancy. We had gotten an ultrasound and saw the heartbeat and measured a little over 6 weeks. And when we went back a month later, sometime between that first and second ultrasound that they did, the baby had stopped growing. There was no longer a heartbeat. But my body didn't realize that the baby was not alive anymore. My body still went through the pregnancy process. My hormones continued to rise. I still had my pregnancy symptoms. I had morning sickness and such an insane sense of smell. I could tell pretty much every time my neighbor was baking anything in their oven because I could smell it from really far away. And that was probably one of the hardest parts for me, is feeling like I'm pregnant and dealing with the not able to sleep and that kind of thing, and knowing that at the end of this I wasn't going to get to bring my angel home with me. So when I found out that I was having a miscarriage, I had gone in early in the morning for an ultrasound. I went by myself because I didn't think that this was going to be any big deal. I thought that everything was going to be fine. Told my husband to go ahead and go to work, and saw the result on the screen, and I was devastated. And they made me wait to talk to the doctor so that they could discuss options and what was next for me. And when the doctor came in, even though I had just seen her the day before, she didn't know who I was. She didn't take time to read the notes. She basically made it sound like it was just too early in my pregnancy to see the baby's heartbeat. And I had to inform her that no, in fact, I was experiencing a miscarriage. So she handed me a piece of paper that had a chart on it, and the chart talked about the different options that I could take to complete my pregnancy and what the process would be like. But it didn't really have any details. It had kind of a couple cons, a couple pros, and what the recovery time was like. And she handed me this piece of paper and said, okay, we're just going to take blood tests, periodically over the next couple weeks. We want to monitor you until your pregnancy hormone gets down to 0. And that was pretty much it. It was just another day at the office for her. But for me, it was much bigger than that. This was my first pregnancy, and this was a child that I had dreamed of for my whole life. And, finding out that you have complications when it seems so easy for everyone else to just have a healthy pregnancy, it was disheartening and frustrating, and it really crushed me. And so I went to the internet and I started doing research. If I was going to make a decision about something on that piece of paper, then I was going to know everything there was to know about each of those options. So I went home and I started my Google research. And the whole time I'm telling myself, like, maybe this is wrong. Maybe they didn't see something. Maybe it's because I have a tilted uterus. When you get bad news and you try to make excuses, or you live in that world of denial where you're like, no, this just can't be right. There's another explanation. That's where I was, and I lived in that world for 2 or 3 days trying to convince myself that, if I just got another scan somewhere else, if it was just a different technologist, doing the ultrasound, then maybe they would find something that the other person didn't find. So after my experience with my doctor and doing lots of research, I went ahead and found a second doctor, saw them on the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, and I basically told her I didn't know what to do. Originally, I had thought I wanted to do the natural method for basically just wait and see. You just kind of let your body figure out eventually that you're not pregnant, and it does what it needs to do to pass the baby The first doctor actually asked me to catch and retain some of the tissue so I could bring it in so it could be tested. And just thinking about that, like, it really unsettled me. It didn't feel right. And so I got a second opinion, and the baby measured exactly like it had measured before, still no heartbeat. And luckily, the doctor gave me the option to have a D&C the next day. The D&C was the second option that was on the chart. The first was the natural, where you just let nature take its course. There's no time frame for how long that can be, and there's not a whole lot of details about what the process is going to be like because it varies from person to person. The second option was the D&C, where they dilate your cervix and they just remove all of the pregnancy, and that way they're able to at least collect the tissue so you can have it tested to see what caused it, if they can figure it out. The third option was to take a pill. It was basically an abortion pill that would make the natural thing happen, but it would force it on your body pretty much within 24 to 48 hours. And after talking to the doctor, I decided that a D&C was probably my best option. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and I had exhausted my vacation because I have chronic migraines, and I had no sick leave and no vacation, and I knew that I couldn't just go into spontaneous, labor or spontaneously lose the baby while I was sitting at my desk at work and feel trapped, like I couldn't go anywhere and I couldn't go home because I didn't have the time off. So I went ahead and had my D&C on the day before Thanksgiving, and it really helped me take the next step in my healing process. In another video in this series, I'll share with you kind of my thoughts and my experience with my D&C. And so if that's an option you're considering, at least you can have more details than what I was able to find when I was considering it myself. Thank you for joining me for this mini series. If you know somebody that's being affected by miscarriage or pregnancy loss or threatened pregnancy, or maybe you're dealing with this yourself, feel free to share this video or reach out to me, shoot me a message or a comment. I'd be happy to chat with you, give you some encouragement, and kind of share some more details about my experience. I look forward to catching you guys later, and I will talk to you soon.